Hi, today I'm going to show you how to make a really simple poncho out of this sweater fleece. It's a little different than the regular fleece. Actually looks like a knit sweater on one side, and it has sort of a fleecy soft back to it. This is a method that has no pattern. I simply bought, I think it is 2 1/4 yards of the sweater fleece that runs 54 inches wide, I believe it is. And right now I'm just cutting off the selvages before I fold it into a square. So if you want to take a look at this, is the fabric minus the lint. So this is what it looks like, sort of sweater-like. And then on the back, it is fleecy. So it's a little more, I would say, refined than the standard fleece that you would use to make robes and hats and whatever. Actually, I'm going to turn this over so I can see the selvage pattern. And I am going to just cut this selvage off. Now there's a couple of ways that we could finish it. We could finish it with one of the decorative stitches on the Janome, or we could just fold a hem and stitch it with a regular stretch stitch. But I thought I might try something a little different and do a blanket stitch. I might do that. I don't know. I often have ideas of how I want to do something from the very beginning, and then I get into it and I change my mind. But that's the fun of doing things on your own, figuring things out and figure out what works best for you. You can do it your way. It's your garment, your project. And just a little bit more here. Okay, so I have cut off the selvage. I look at this and I see possibilities of things that I could do with it, but that'll be another thing. I have a hard time throwing away fabric because of being a quilter. Sometimes you just need a little dab of something. Anyway, so I have this big rectangle here, and what I need to do is cut a square. So I am going to fold the selvage, what was the selvage edge, to the cut edge and basically try to make a square here by making a big triangle. And since this is kind of stretchy, just be careful to not tug too hard and end up getting your square out of a little wonky. This is when it's really great to have a big table, because then you can see what that's like. Now, you know what I just noticed? This fabric has an ugly mark on it right here. And that's where it was hanging on the bolt, I guess wrapped on the bolt. And it's probably been in the store pretty a long time, and that could explain why I got such a good deal on it. But I couldn't resist it. So I have, and this part, it doesn't need to be particularly accurate, precise, I should say. I'm gonna measure this and see how much I got here. this fabric is 60 inches wide, and I'm going to be doing a 60-inch square with it. Okay, so I was wrong. It wasn't 54, it's 60. So I have here approximately a 60-inch square, and it looks like I have a half yard, 18 inches left over, and I thought it might be kind of fun to do a hat or maybe make a cowl neck for it. I don't know. We'll just kind of wing it and see how it goes. So I'm going to cut this into a square. And I'll be right back. Okay, looking here, it's not cut particularly true, but I'll work on that. I put this away too soon. I'm going to put my mat up here so I can use it as okay, so I know I have 18 inches left over, and I'm looking for a 60-inch square. I'm just trying to get rid of some of this bulk here, and I'm going to cut off need that height. Okay. I'm going to set this aside, and I'm going to try and even this up a little bit. It's never even when they cut it off the bolt. You know, some folks are a little more conscientious about cutting it straight, and some folks aren't. A big triangle. Perfect. Now I'm going to hold this, split the triangle in half. Now I have this point here, which is going to be our neck, our neckline. And honestly, this is the only tricky part. So I could set down the protractor, and this would be basically cutting a 6-inch circle from here. I don't know if you can see that. Anyway, I have a protractor. I'm going to set down the center of the point right here. And, or if you have a compass, you can set it as a 3, which would give you a 6-inch. We'll do 4. Go 4 here. Do 4 here. Do 4 here. here, and then just connect them. Like this. And then we're going to connect to here. So it's not rocket science. We're not going to the moon. We're just drawing. Okay. And now cut. All right. So I decided to do an 8-inch circle, which would mean I'd need to measure 4 inches instead of the 3. So I cut this out. Perfect circle. And now, if you like, you can wear it point ways, or you can wear it crossways, square-wise like this. Rectangular, I should say. And if that's the case, what you could do is just run a seam this way and leave, like maybe leave some open down here and then run a seam this way. And that way it kind of stays closed on the side. And you can wear it, this way. And yeah, that's plenty. Yeah. I like that. But I noticed, look, I'm not that tall. My arms are not that huge. So I may end up doing some trimming on that. We'll see. Okay. So here's what it looks like if I do it the crossways. No, point ways. Still, point ways, a little bit big and floppy on the arms. I might have to trim those down. But if I go this way, I still need to trim that down. It's ginormous. Yeah. I am thinking this is a good 3.5, 4 inches long on the side. So I could just chop some of that off if I'm gonna wear it like this way, which I do kind of like the idea of, or Poncho style. Either way, I'm gonna have to trim down the arm. Now for the cowl, I think I'm gonna do that. Could you leave it like this? I guess you could, but nah. Now, see, I can fold this under and then just do some stitching around here. And you know, that might look okay, but I would definitely want to finish it. I was thinking about doing blanket stitch here with some contrasting yarn. Thought that might be pretty, but I don't know. I'll let you know what I come up with. Now it's time to cut the collar. I measured out of the leftover piece 28 inches wide and 26 inches tall. So a rectangle that's 28 by 26. I'm using the Oregon Super Stretch needle that has sort of a ball point, but it's a little heavier duty than just a regular jersey knit. And for the thread, I'm using Synthread polyester. It is number 707 dark gray. To form the collar, I folded the neck material in half lengthwise, right sides together, and stitched a half an inch from the edge on each of the ends. And then I turned it and poked out the points of the collar, getting ready for the next step. So now I'm going to put the collar in. I'm going to turn the poncho inside out, put the collar inside, and then I'm going to match up my markings and pin. Okay, well, I'm all finished. I am showing this as a poncho right now. So I added the collar here as sort of a cowl, debating about whether I should add buttons. Add some buttons here to the top, maybe 3 across here so that I can close the turtleneck if possible. It also can be worn like on the point like a poncho, or I can turn it to be worn more square, which I like that too. I think it just depends on maybe what outfit I'm gonna wear. I did end up shortening it quite a bit from the original measurements that I gave. I think it was a 60-inch square, which turns out to be 30 inches from center. And from center is where I cut the circle for the neck hole. I've since rethought that a little bit. Instead of cutting a full circle, I think I should have, I think in the future I will, cut an oval of maybe 4 inches wide, 2 inches deep, so that there's not as, I guess it sits on the body a little more evenly, depending on how much front and back side you have. That might come into play. Also, I wanted to point out that I used some decorative stitching to apply the hem, and I stretched it ever so slightly, and it created sort of a really nice kind of mild ruffly effect. The stitch I used was the heirloom number 15. It made a nice scalloped edge. The corgi hairs are optional if you have that available to you. They seem to get everywhere, and once you have a corgi in the house, they end up everywhere in your sewing. Some optional embellishments. I thought about going crazy with some embroidery. I'll show you what I experimented with. Okay, so here is one of the embroideries that I've been playing with on a little scrap here. This is a fringe, and there's a couple of different ways that you can fringe it. You can do the loopy fringe, or you can do the fuzzy fringe, and if you do it wrong, you end up with 0 fringe because it all pulls out. That's a lesson for another video. But I decided I didn't want to go this direction. I just added the decorative stitching to hem the bottom, which I really like this a lot. It's almost invisible, but I just really like the way that finished. Some other options would be I could go a little more glammy and add this little flower brooch. I could go a little bit boho and some of these little Japanese flowers. Could add those, possibly, if I wanted to go boho. But overall, I think it's great. I like the weight of this a lot. It is very warm. And I just like the bulky substantialness of it. And I will post the final dimensions of this, and I might go and do a couple variations, but I really like playing around with this, and I hope you do too. I know this was pretty hard to follow along because this is sort of my stream of consciousness figuring this out, but here's what I came up with. Cut a square, 50 inches square for the poncho. Fold the square in half diagonally to form a triangle. Fold that triangle in half again, then measure and cut a 4-inch arc from the point of the triangle. For the collar, cut out a rectangle 28 inches wide by 26 inches tall. Then fold that half lengthwise with right sides together. Then to finish the collar, you're going to, with right sides together, stitch 1/2 inch seam on both ends, and then turn it to wrong sides together and poke out the corners. Mark the quarter marks on the collar by measuring halfway, and then between the halfway and the edges, measure that halfway point. Then do the same with the neck of the poncho. Divide it in half, mark, and then divide those into quarters, mark those. Then you're going to place the collar on the poncho, inside of the poncho neck hole with right sides together, matching the center and quarter marks. Gently stretch the collar, not the neck hole, but the collar, to ease in any fullness. Then pin and stitch with a stretch stitch. And to finish the poncho, turn up a 1/2 inch hem on the bottom, all around the entire bottom edge of the poncho. I top stitch with number 15 heirloom stitch, and embellish as you desire.